I'm Everett, and this is my bathtub flower pot. So my initial objective was to make a flower pot that would automatically water the plant inside of it, but I thought just making a basic sort of terracotta pot shape would be a bit boring, so I ended up with the idea to make it shaped like a bathtub, with the self-watering system being fed through the shower head of the bathtub, and it would use sensors inside the soil to detect when the soil is below a certain moisture, which would trigger a pump to pump the water through. So designing it, I designed it in Onshape, which is an online CADing software, which is how I sort of made the bathtub and the pipe and the shower head. Now, if you notice here, it's cut in half, and I'll get to that later. So basically, the actual bathtub itself was too big to be printed all in one piece on the 3D printing bed. So I had to actually slice parts in like sections so I could print them separately and then glue them together. As you can see, maybe there's a line down here where it was separated. And also, I had to make a hole here in the side of the shower head because there would be no way to actually feed water through this bottom section. So I cut a hole through here that would feed the water to the shower head. So programming it, it's not terribly complex. If you can see here, this is the code that controls the moisture sensor, and it detects if the soil is below a certain value of moisture, it'll trigger the pump to pump water. So the shower head we initially designed was too big, and at least for the pipe here, we ended up printing out 3 sections, but we only used 2, and we just sanded them and then taped them together. And the base of the shower head itself couldn't support itself just by being glued, so I ended up drilling a hole in the side of the bathtub and sticking the pipe through. So the first prototype of it, this is basically what it looked like. And the shower head was much larger and had a lot more holes, and it didn't provide enough pressure. And a lot of testing would sometimes lead to the overwatering of the plants. And I first packed the soil inside of it very densely, and it didn't allow for a lot of water to drain. So for the shower heads, the first model, which is this one, you can see it was a lot bigger than the one we have here, and I had a lot of small holes. And because it was larger and had more holes, it didn't have a lot of pressure, and it would kind of just drip on one side. And then the second model I made, it had less holes and it was smaller, but the holes were still too big, and it didn't provide enough pressure. So for the final one, I ended up just making the holes smaller from this design, but keeping the size from this design. So for the final model demo, I'm going to manually remove the moisture sensor to trigger the pump to go, but normally it would just detect when it has no moisture and would send a signal to the pump. And when I put the sensor back, it detects that the soil is wet and will stop the pump.
Okay. Perfect. So you said you had do you have your original designs with you, or did you discard them? The shower heads?
Yes, for the shower heads. I have them right here. So these are the 2 ones that I made. As you can see, this one is smaller and has larger holes because I thought if I had holes this small, it would provide too much pressure and might just splash out the bathtub itself. And this one is the bigger, larger one. You can see it's much bigger compared to that one. And it has a lot of holes, and they're kind of spread out.
Okay. Perfect. And what programming language you said you were programming in?
I used Python on Arduino.
Okay. Perfect. And then what's the CADing software you used for this project?
The CADing software I used was Onshape, which is, that allowed me to make the separate parts.
Okay. And then the heads, so basically the shower heads are replaceable. You can swap them out for...
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else have questions for him? No? All right. Let's give him a round of applause.